But anyway, what is this stream? This stream is essentially me programming, I guess. um, I wish. So yeah, who am I first? I'm the founder of itch.io. Let me bring that up actually, which is a website for video games. You may or may not have heard of it. If you're here on this stream, I'm assuming you've probably heard of it. In any case, yeah, I work on this a lot pretty much. I'm primarily a software engineer. I'm coding a lot. I do a lot of coding things. Before I started this project though, I just had a bunch of random side projects. My language of choice is essentially Lua. Here's Lua right here. This is the programming language that powers a lot of the work I do, including itch.io. And so the point of this stream essentially is I'm looking for an excuse to get back into working on my side projects. I've been really focused on itch stuff. It takes up a lot of my time, and a lot of my side projects have kind of fallen off to the side. So I'm just looking for an excuse, essentially, to just code other random stuff. And I think a lot of the stuff I work on is potentially interesting to other people. So I figured like these streams should kind of just be like a live casual coding session with some chat. I really don't expect to get a lot of work done. Based on like other streams I've watched, like it's more interesting to interact with chat essentially. I just don't want to be heads down coding stuff, ignoring what's going on. So I don't have any like specific goals, like I need to finish this project or I need to get something deployed or committed or whatever. I kind of just want to have the projects. I have some ideas. I want to have these ideas kind of in the background, so I have something to work on during downtime, and then people can kind of pop in, ask questions, see what's going on, etc. I'm very bassy. Is it so bad that I should fix it, or is it just a observation you're making? Yes, I have seen a few of Adam's streams, and I notice how he tends to not get things done sometimes. Okay. Let's try tweaking with the audio settings then, because apparently it's not good enough. Speaking of gimmicks, I want this whole stream to be a gimmick essentially. So I was mentioning before, I want to like have some weird projects to work on. The first project I want to work on is resurrecting this Twitch bot I made a long time ago. So hopefully I can be adding some gimmicks to the chat pretty soon. I'm gonna EQ my voice. See how it sounds. Test. Just give me a second. So this is what my audio set looks like, by the way. Another thing I do is I do make music. So that's why I'm kind of using all these confusing audio tools, is because I have some experience using them, and I figure it was a good excuse to mess around with them more. Sadly, I did not prepare enough and like actually see what things sound like, so that's why we're kind of going through this trouble right now. Test. Test. Okay, I'm gonna try EQing myself. My window manager is awesome. So something else I want to do actually, I keep jumping around. I want to keep notes. So inspired by Adam's stream, if you happen to have come there, he does a very good job of keeping notes, keeping track of things. And I want to do that. So when people ask questions, I know things that I need to add as potential like bot commands or things like that, or maybe topics to just discuss in the future. So I'm using this program here. It's essentially a personal wiki. Also, I just took out a lot of my bass. How does that sound now? Test. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm actually monitoring my audio now. I think this sounds good. You tell me. Yeah, I should have just monitored things from the beginning. Okay. uh, okay. So as I was saying, I want to take notes on questions people ask, things like that. Is there the background noise when I'm speaking or when I'm not speaking? Constant background noise. Okay, hold on, let me see. Well, based on what everyone's saying, it seems like there is some noise, but it's not too bad. So I don't think it's worth spending too much time on right now. I mean, you have to tell me though. I checked with the audio monitor real quick. I thought it was okay. All right, great. So back to the wiki. People are going to ask questions. I want to make sure it's easy to get those answers. I'm assuming many people may ask similar questions. This is kind of planning for future streams. I don't know how often I will be streaming. I need to kind of do it a couple times, see what it's like. In any case, the first question that was asked is, what is my window manager? So I'm just going to put this here really quick, but I'll reorganize things in a bit. So what is my... And also, what is my operating system? So my window manager is called Awesome. My operating system is Linux, specifically Arch Linux. I'll probably publish these things with links and stuff later. Awesome is a tiling window manager, except what you're seeing right now is not tiled. I'm using something that's called floating mode, just because I have a billion windows open and it's a little bit easier to manage things right now. But when I go into coding, you'll see the tiling. Arch Linux is the Linux I've used essentially for the past 7 years. I'm a Linux user. I do all my development on Linux. I do have a Windows gaming PC I'll use occasionally. Awesome is also awesome. It is my favorite window manager. One of the reasons why I like it so much is that it's scripted by Lua. So I've actually got some Moon scripts in there. And so you might be saying, what is Moon script? I don't recommend replacing GNOME with Awesome right this second because it may take you some time. I've definitely tweaked things around a bit. I've written various plugins and things just to make my life a little easier. Actually, to be honest, it's mostly default. Anyway, what is MoonScript? MoonScript is a programming language I made. And it'll be a very common theme. Because essentially, everything I build is made in MoonScript. With the exception of stuff that needs a specific language, say like JavaScript in the browser, and so on. This is MoonScript's website. Check it out. I think one of the reasons why, so obviously I'm biased, but I really do enjoy it. It's white space sensitive, so similar to Python, if you're familiar with that programming language. But one thing that I think is potentially nice about it is it reads well. If you're just looking at it, it's kind of close to pseudocode. So even if you're not familiar with the language, you can kind of figure out what's going on. But I mentioned before I'm really big into Lua, but now I'm saying I use MoonScript, so how does this work? Essentially, MoonScript compiles to Lua. So I write in MoonScript, I run it through a program, and Lua is output. And then when I need to run my programs, I use either the Lua interpreter or LuaJIT, which is another runtime for Lua. So just to give you an example, like on the left here is Moonscript code, on the right here is Lua code, and this is a little interactive compiler. You can kind of see how as I write things, you can see the output Lua code. Have you been missing things I've been saying because the volume keeps shifting around too much? Or is it just like a slight annoyance? Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely spend some more time off stream figuring things out. And also in the present try to be very aware of where my lips are. I need to get it all over this microphone. In any case, back to Moonscript. I think it reads well. If you're somewhat familiar with programming, you can kind of look at something like this and say, yeah, I know what that means. There are some other syntax things that are not as friendly, but once you get the hang of it, it's really not that hard. And as someone who both knows Lua and Moonscript, like I can kind of see the compiled output in my head already. So it's not like I'm always like trying to wonder like, oh, what does this output to or something like that. So it's just something, it takes time, you get used to it. And I think in the end, it improves your workflow. So the point of Moonscript is you're essentially writing less. There's a lot of shorthand to do things that might not otherwise be possible in Lua. For example, I don't know, what if you want a break statement that is not available in Lua? So if I had a for loop, this is a very, very like non useful example. Sorry, not a break statement, a continue statement. So obviously this example is dumb, right? But you can kind of see how using something like a transpiler can introduce functionality into the language that might not normally be trivial to write by hand. So this is kind of an extreme example, like the amount of lines here is significantly different than the amount of lines over here. Other examples include things like list comprehensions, which are quick ways to do like array maps. I don't want to dive too deep into this stuff right now. Let's just be aware that it introduces some new concepts to make a lot of common operations easier. So I feel like these questions are probably going to be pretty common. So I figured I'd get them out of the way as soon as possible. Is the desktop client for itch written in Moonscript? No, it is not. So the desktop client is written mostly by Amos. He's the other engineer on our team. And the desktop client uses Electron, which is essentially a shell that lets you have a browser turn into an app. And so it's written all in TypeScript, and it uses React as a front-end framework. That's just for the UI. Additionally, we have a backing service that is written in Go. So most of the heavy lifting happens in Go. It wasn't originally that way, but as we kind of headed towards that setup, we found it worked very well. Just because like Electron has this stigma with it that it's very bloated and apps are slow and they use a ton of memory and stuff like that. And when you're building a desktop app whose functionality is to like copy lots of big files around and do expensive operations, I think it's better to use a language that kind of specializes in stuff like that. So I got a question. Why make Moonscript versus just write in Lua? So there's kind of like two answers. Originally, why did I make Moonscript? Just because I was having fun, really. It was inspired by another programming language called CoffeeScript. So this language came out first, and it created a new syntax on top of JavaScript. And I was a big fan of this. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. That was a suggestion for the wiki. I'll still finish answering. Anyway, CoffeeScript, huge inspiration. I like the idea of just writing less to get the same kind of code, kind of like programmer productivity. So I made Moonscript for fun, but then I stuck with it. And so why do I still use it today? I think is a pretty good question because the programming landscape has changed. The languages people use now have changed quite a bit. There's a lot of new stuff around. I still use it today for productivity essentially. So I really do like the Lua ecosystem. I like Lua JIT, which is a just-in-time compiler for Lua. It's very fast, and I like a lot of the frameworks and stuff that is available. And I think Moonscript fits really well into that ecosystem. So that's why I still use it today. I see some people hating on Electron. I think in chat, I think that's a pretty common thing. Yeah, they are bloated. It's a whole new browser process, like that's to be expected. The advantage though is you can make a cross-platform application very fast. You do not need to worry about many different GUI toolkits and whatever. So as long as you can manage your bloat, I think they are a good solution to building a desktop app. So I don't develop on this app at all. It's all Amos. If you ever have any questions, I think you should seek him out, but don't bother him too much. This is Amos. Do I have any idea what the future for LuaJIT holds? So let me give some context. So LuaJIT is an alternative runtime for Lua. It is based on an older version of Lua version 5.1. Mainline Lua has been incremented a couple times by now. They're on 5.3. They're getting 5.4 ready, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so 5.3 is the latest. 5.4 is coming up. The language is kind of evolving over time, whereas LuaJIT kind of still uses 5.1 as its baseline. Additionally, if you look at these dates here, they're kind of old. So there's kind of some question of oh, what do we do, right? And I think this is kind of analogous to the whole Python 2, Python 3 thing, where a lot of people stuck behind with Python 2 because Python 3 was a lot different. In this case, people are kind of sticking by with LuaJIT because it's significantly faster. It's a very good implementation. So in terms of the future, I haven't been following it too closely. I do know that the OpenResty people are very invested in maintaining it, and they've actually been pushing out new patches or applying patches. And as far as I know, when they release a new version, they include a modified version of LuaJIT with some of these patches. So OpenResty is a platform for building websites, and this is the technology that actually powers itch.io. So this is the web server, the thing that handles requests and then sends it off to code. It allows you to write web applications using Lua, powered by LuaJIT, on top of Nginx. And so this is the web stack that I really like. So in addition to itch.io, I have a handful of other projects running on this right now, which I'm sure I'll cover. So I would say LuaJIT is very mature. It's definitely production ready. I would not. Oh wait, sorry. I think I misread you. You're talking about Lua 5.4. Okay. Yeah, I have not used Lua 5.4, so I can't comment on that. Back to OpenResty though. One of the things that I just recently got launched that I'm pretty happy about. If we check in the version highlights for the latest version, you can see here they have a section for LuaJIT, and so you can kind of, if you look through their version notes, you can kind of keep track of what are they doing with LuaJIT. And there's this new patch that removes a limit that I was very afraid of for a very long time. So because of the way LuaJIT's memory management was built, there is a limit to how much memory could be managed by the garbage collector in the language. So the limit to how many objects you could essentially instantiate. And itch is a ton of code. It's a massive amount of code. I don't have it in front of me, but it's hundreds of thousands of lines of code, tons of active objects. It's a very big application. And I was worried I was going to be approaching this memory limit. As I continue to develop features and new stuff comes out, just keeping all the code in memory and handling whatever data for all the models and stuff, just all that was going to hit this limit. Um, but luckily, in this most recent version, they have a new patch out that effectively removed this limit. You can see here the limit is now 128 terabytes, so I'm not worried about running out of memory anymore. So I never hit this limit with the itch website, but I actually did hit this limit with the itch recommender. So on the home page, there's a section recommended for you. And this uses a technique called collaborative filtering to essentially look at user behavior and figure out like things that are related to other things. So like if two people, or if someone rated a game 5 stars and then they rate another game 5 stars, like there's a connection there. Like those games potentially could be interesting to other people if someone else liked one of those games. And in order to implement an algorithm like this, you typically have to build an entire graph of all your objects in memory. And this actually turned out to be a lot of memory. So this was an example of like a script I have. We have a script that essentially calculates all the recommendations. It hit the memory limit. But I have tested with the new patch, and it works great now. No longer do we have any memory limit issues. Yeah, so from chat, Cloudflare was supposed to take over Luajit. I'm not sure it happened. I have heard stuff like that. I'm sure Cloudflare. I'm pretty sure Cloudflare uses OpenResty, and they tried to like collaborate or potentially like buy one of them out at some point, or buy OpenResty out. I don't know what happened. OpenResty is now trying to like run as its own company, so it's kind of unclear like how that's being handled and who's actually like submitting patches to Luajit. Additionally, I think the original author is still like reviewing code. He's semi-active on the mailing list. At least last I checked, like many months ago. So I got a question: what camera, mic, and headphones am I using? So there's some hacky Linux stuff going on here. First off, my headphones. I don't know. The brand is Super Lux. They're budget open-ear headphones, but they sound pretty good. I did a lot of research. I actually would recommend them. I don't know, check them out. Camera is a Nikon D5100. So this is actually, I'm using my DLSR. Typically used for taking photos. And I've always like wanted to use it as a webcam, but like there's no way to just use it as a webcam. There's a USB port on it, but it just doesn't implement the webcam like specification or whatever. But I did find out there's this other mode called PTP, which is like a live view mode for DLSRs. And it essentially lets you preview the camera inside of an app, but not as a webcam. So actually I'm running this program that opens up this live view, and then I'm using OBS to crop this window just so you can see this part. So it's pretty hacky, but it works. It looks a lot better than like the crappy webcam I have. So yeah, that's how I'm doing things for now. And my microphone is some cheap mono price $20 microphone. Nothing fancy. Yeah, so I think the camera is probably the best part of this setup. So it's funny you mentioned that from chat. Be careful it doesn't heat too much. So there's this like, a lot of people worry that DLSRs for taking photos are not really designed for video and they might overheat or something like that. And there's like a lot of like scary stuff on the internet, like you might ruin your camera. As far as I know, you will not ruin your camera. If your camera overheats, it just shuts off. Additionally, there's also some like weird tax tariff stuff where like cameras cannot record longer than 20 minutes. Otherwise, they're considered video equipment, and then they have to be taxed, or they're more expensive or something like that. So this camera actually cannot record longer than 20 minutes. I've also noticed that the live view will turn off and come back on every, I don't know, like 5 minutes or something. So this is definitely not designed for this, but I'm not worried about it overheating or anything like that. The most I'm worried about is the battery dying, actually, because I did not get a AC adapter yet. How many monitors do I have? So my desktop has 2. I have a laptop right here. I have 2 monitors in my living room, so quite a few monitors. 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 to 6 monitors probably. All right. I think that's a good intro or whatever. As I said, if you just came in and missed everything, like feel free to ask questions. I don't mind being interrupted. I'm going to keep a log of questions so it's easy to see answers to these things in the future. But I think now I'm going to kind of jump into the project that I wanted to work on. So from chat, you should probably wiki these questions. This app here I use to take notes is a wiki. So I'm going to figure out a way to just convert this into something you can either view on Git or whatever. So it'll be a wiki. Okay, so what am I going to work on? Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm a doofus. I should have added that to the wiki. I mean, based on my audio, I don't think anyone wants to know what my microphone is, because I'm assuming it doesn't sound very good, but... but it's the things, those are the things you see in the camera, so I'm sure people wonder about it. So, good point, Luigi Soap, good point. I wrote an IRC bot many, many, many years ago. Apparently 7 years ago. That's a long time ago. I wrote it in Lua. It was for an IRC channel I used to hang out in. It did some goofy things like keep track of stats, had some commands, whatever. Fast forward to approximately 3 years ago, and I wanted to start my Twitch career, and I needed a bot. And of course, I could have just reused an existing bot, but I thought, I can figure out something else. So I ended up repurposing this IRC bot I built because Twitch's API to chat is currently IRC. At least it was IRC 3 years ago. I actually have not researched any of this stuff recently, so maybe things are different now. I think Adam has his own bot. He was just mentioning it in his stream. So this bot I wrote, I updated it about 3 years ago for my Twitch stream. It did some stuff. I ran into this issue where there was too much latency with the stream. I had made all these cool commands that were supposed to be real time, like you could mess around in my screen or play noises. I had something that made it so every single chat message went to text through speech, which is probably not a good idea anymore. Actually, probably never was a good idea. But it wasn't fun because you had to type in a command and wait 8 seconds. So I want to resurrect this bot. I think my goals will probably be a little bit different this time around. Now that I know more about how things work in terms of how chat wants to interact, I think I can come up with different ideas for bot features. So the idea here is I have not looked at this code in 3 years. I'm just going to pull it up, start poking around, and I kind of want to see, okay, what needs to be done to migrate it. And I have a couple ideas of like things I want to work on with it. As you can see here under the dependencies section, we see one of the dependencies is Lua socket. So I use Lua socket for all the networking code, and I want to upgrade it. There's a different networking library that I want to use for this, which I will show you shortly. But I think the first step is I need to get this code and start looking at it. So let's go to the terminal. So from chat, it's possible to connect via WebSocket now. And there's custom IRC v3 extensions for badges and things. Okay, well, yeah, so one of the things is I need to like upgrade. I need to upgrade how I talk to Twitch, so I need to explore that stuff. I checked out the repository beforehand just to make sure everything was set up. I'm using a completely different account on my computer, so I can't leak anything. So there's nothing like logged in or anything. But I have not looked at the code. So here's the code. Yeah, so I need to poke around. I figure I'm just going to go through some files, look at things, and just say my observations. Oh, hold on. I got to fix something really quick. Thanks, Adam. So if I ever need to work on itch stuff, for the time being, I'm not going to do it on the stream because I need to set up a system that is secure so I don't leak things that are important, so I don't show anyone's private information, things like that. So I actually need to make a quick tweak to the website. So I'm doing that on my laptop on the side. But I think in the future, I do want to figure out a good way to work on itch features. I think it'd be fun to like invite people in from our community and kind of, I don't know, make suggestions or just fix things that are annoying. As long as they're simple, of course. This is always risky deploying live on stream. Like thousands of people are visiting the site, so I hope I don't break it down or bring it down. Okay, seems to be okay. Let's check that it's up. Looking good. One more thing. So I removed a little widget that I'd put on this page, and then I also just purged the cache so no caches will accidentally show it. Everything appears to be up. All right, cool. All right, back to this thing. So where to begin? The first thing I notice is this is a project written in Moon scripts with these .moon extensions. I see a main.moon and I see a makefile. So this is the makefile. I typically use makefiles to store commonly used commands, not really to build stuff. So here I can see I have commands to start a test IRC server here using ngircd. I don't even know if I have that installed on my computer anymore. I have a command to do a check of the code to look for any like static issues, like bad variable names, things like that. And then I see that it uses a database. Okay. The thing I don't see here is a start command. So I'm assuming that to start it, I need to run main.moon. This is main.moon. So it looks like we're using two classes here, one called IRC, one called event loop. So I'm assuming IRC is the thing that actually understands the IRC protocol. This includes sending the messages back and forth, the ping and the pong, if you've ever seen it before. So just some background about IRC as a protocol. It's a plain text protocol. Essentially, you open up a TCP IP socket and you start sending text, and then the server sends text back, and you have these exchanges, essentially the chat. It's very, very simple. It's actually like human readable. If you just dumped out the logs, you could kind of understand what's going on. So in order to make this project work, I needed to write code that parsed those lines and did things with it. And then this other class is called event loop. So the event loop is, I'm assuming, what's going to be handling kind of dispatching all the actions that need to be happening based on network requests. So Lua is not a threaded language, I guess. There's no concurrency. I'm probably mixing these words up actually. essentially, the runtime can only do one thing at a time. And if you want to have things running in parallel, that means things not running exactly at the same time, but like kind of splitting work between two different lines of code or threads of code. This is a very confusing explanation of this. You need to use some sort of mechanism to essentially say, oh, I've run a chunk of code, time to hand off work to the next chunk of code. Why is this relevant to this project? Well, if you need to do other things besides respond and reply to IRC requests. So I do remember that this particular program also made HTTP requests to things like, I don't know, other services or something to get information. So like people could issue a command to the bot and the bot would query something and come back. So we need some way to kind of like keep track of all this stuff that's happening at the same time. And all this stuff is blocked on I/O. So it's not blocked on like the CPU doing a lot of computation. It's blocked on network requests. So it's waiting for a website or a service to respond. So that's a perfect fit for Lua because Lua has something called coroutines where essentially you can kind of pause the execution of some lines of code and say, okay, now it's time for some other lines of code to run. So event loop does all that. And I'm going to actually open up the event loop file first and take a quick look. How is the font, by the way? Is it easy to see and read things? Quality is okay? Okay, cool. This isn't my normal font. I changed things to be a little bit thicker and bigger. All right, so event loop is a MoonScript class. The font is not Hack. I think it's like Deja Vu Mono or something. So scrolling down this file, I see line 4 is a reference to Lua socket. So yeah, the event loop is most likely powered by Lua socket. This line here is essentially just declaring a method, and the new method is the constructor of the class. So this is what initializes the instance of the class. And so it creates 3 properties: listening, readers, and tasks. So from what I can gather, because I really don't remember how any of this stuff worked, these are just, it records the things that are happening, so it knows what to like check on and make sure things are getting done. If I scroll down a bit, I see we have an add task method, and then I have a comment above there that describes how the task should be structured. So it looks like you can pass in an object with a name, interval time, so I guess it'll run it over and over again. And then I guess time is a delay, and action is the thing that actually runs. We have add listener, which takes a reader. I don't know what a reader is right now. I think we're going to find out soon, though. It looks like this reader thing can be converted into coroutines, which is that Lua data structure I kind of mentioned before, this Lua concept that lets you make things run at the same time. And it looks like it takes this reader and gets a socket out of it and puts it in this listening array. I see a method here that removes a listener. So if you can add a listener, you can remove one. I see a method here that is called HTTP GET. This looks like a wrapper to make HTTP requests using a different class, a class called HTTP request. So we'll probably take a look at that later. And then I see a method called run. And this looks like the loop. So this is the event loop. If you've ever used like something like JavaScript, you may be familiar with this idea that you can schedule things with like set interval, and that'll kind of go off and happen at a later time, or you can make HTTP requests, and in the browser or on Node.js, it'll kind of figure out what to do, and then later on it'll call your callback. And when people talk about that, how that is set up, JavaScript is very similar to Lua in that regard. There is an event loop somewhere. So Node.js provides an event loop, or the browser provides an event loop. And this event loop is this thing that just kind of keeps track of all the other tasks or the other objects that are currently doing something. And as soon as those are ready with a response, then it knows to call the callback function or do whatever else it needs to do. So when you use JavaScript, you're not actually writing the event loop. Likewise, if you're building a game or you used a game engine, you typically aren't writing the event loop. You kind of write code that is inserted into the event loop, and the engine kind of figures out what to do. Here, though, this literally is a loop. So here we have while true, so this is the event loop. And so reading through this quick, I see it's using this socket module here. And that was actually pulled in from in the top of the file. That was part of Lua socket. And on the socket module, it's using a select function. So select is essentially, it's like I don't know if I want to call it low level, but it's a very common networking function that's you would use when interacting with sockets. So like if I look up a man page for selects, I don't know if it's 2 or 3. Yeah, so this is select in C. And you can see here, it allows a program to monitor multiple file descriptors. So back on the code, I'm just using a Lua binding to select. And I'm using sockets, which are file descriptors, and waiting for them to say, oh, we're ready. We finished the HTTP request, or the IRC server has given us a new line or given us some new bytes to read. So this event loop, I can kind of guess what's going on. So there's a while true. I see socket.select. This listening thing was the array of sockets. I'm not sure what this nil argument is, but this 0.5 I'm assuming is a timeout. And I'm assuming that because the next line it's actually checking for a timeout. So the way select works is you run it with a list of file descriptors, a list of sockets potentially, and it'll try to see if anyone's ready for the duration of the timeout. So this loop will say, okay, all my sockets, do you have anything for me? And it'll wait 5 seconds for that. And then I can see here that if it returns without a timeout error, so this is what this symbol means, not equals, which is actually not MoonScript style. That's more MoonScript style. That's equivalent, by the way. If there is something ready, then it goes through all the readable sockets, and it essentially does what it needs to do. So it's referencing this readers thing, which was the thing that had the coroutine, if you remember earlier, and it's pulling that out, and it's doing something with it. So it's probably running a function. It's running some sort of code as a callback. Additionally, here it looks like it cleans up sockets that are no longer needed. So I think this section here is responsible for the sockets, and then this section here is the tasks. And the tasks, I think, are just functions, regular functions. There's no file descriptors, nothing like that involved. And because socket.select is kind of waiting, there's time elapsing. So this isn't a loop that just runs it's not a spin loop. It's not stuck repeating over and over again. So it'll run, it'll wait, it'll run, it'll wait. And it keeps track of the time that's elapsing. And because tasks, as we kind of talked about earlier, they're all time-based, it can tell when it's time to run a task. So it can tell when it's time to run whatever function has been put in tasks. Hello, welcome to the chat. For 42. So to recap this file, this is the event loop. It keeps track of tasks and sockets. The run function enters the loop, so it uses a while loop, and it just repeats over and over again. And it checks on sockets using socket select, and it does tasks just by seeing if enough time has elapsed. This function run, though, will be a blocking function, essentially. As soon as it's called, it will run forever until the program is like force quit, based on what I see here. So if I go back to main.moon, we can see here we created an event loop. We added an IRC to the loop. I guess we associate the IRC to the loop here, and then we tell the loop to run. So the program just runs forever, and it connects to IRC and does stuff. So this event loop is nice. I don't see anything too weird about how it's written. Like if I was rewriting this today, I try to think, would I approach it the same way? I think just based on me scanning over it, I'd probably do something similar. But I think the end goal for this project is to actually replace Lua socket with something else. Or at least that's what I have in my head right now. So this event loop will probably get destroyed at some point, but that's okay. Before I kind of jump into the IRC thing, I want to test it. And so in order to do that, I'm opening a terminal off screen just so I can like check the config, just to make sure nothing bad is in there. In order to test that, I'm gonna try running it and see what happens. Essentially, I can see here that it's loading this config file. So I'm just gonna check what that is really quick. Okay. So I can show you this. So this is the config file, and then I'm going to open up main on the right. Oops. Actually, this isn't the config file. Hold on, let me change this up a bit. So this require function is requiring saltworld.config. This file over here is just config.moon. So technically it would be under the module config. So I'm going to open up saltworld or saltw config. And we can see here defines essentially a table of properties. I'm looking at it down here. So something I notice is the configuration seems to be using so I have a web framework called Lapis, and it seems to be using that. So it's this line right here is getting those things. And then if we scroll to the bottom here, we can see it's combining the two different tables. So it's combining these things that are in the source code with the data that is coming from the configuration file. And then this file over here is the configuration file. And the way these files work is you can define environments. So here we have config test as a test environment. Here we have config Twitch as a Twitch environment. Here we have config development as a development environment. So because we're interested in Twitch, this is the config we want to look at. I can see here we have some extensions. And this is a config file, so these names are essentially, they're made up. Like name is just because I want to have a name, and extensions is because I want to have something called extensions. So there's no real meaning here. This is just static data, and then the meaning is kind of defined by what the code does. So before I boot this up, though, I remember this bot did some goofy things, and I think I want to disable those first. So before I run anything, I'm going to look at these extensions really quick. So the first extension is called Speak. And if I remember correctly, it just took every message from chat. So this is the Speak extension right here. It took every message from chat and pumped it into a text-to-speech program. Why is Lua so weird? So this isn't Lua directly. This is MoonScript. And I think MoonScript's a bit weirder than Lua. But if you see something weird that you think is related to Lua, tell me and I can talk about it. That was from chat. I don't want this enabled right now. So I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to do that with a comment. Scramble Vim is another extension. This was something where someone would type a command, ! Vim, and it would scramble my editor to use different colors and different fonts. This does not work anymore because I no longer use gvim, so this is kind of useless, and I don't want to get in the way, so I'm going to disable it. I do agree text-to-speech sounds nice, but I think it should be a little bit more restricted. I'll probably revisit it in the future. I kind of just want to get this thing on and see what happens. So this is another extension I wrote called MIDI. And this is actually very simple. You kind of see the interface I built. So all extensions appear to extend from this class. And you can add event handlers for this is an event I'm assuming called irc.message. And then this message handler is a method that plays rimshot.mid. So I actually like this extension, but I don't know if it works. So I'm going to turn it off for now. I'm just checking it out to see what's there. I think having a rim shot command is pretty cool. If the latency stuff is figured out, then maybe we'll bring it back. Okay. So yeah, I modified the config a bit. This is now a bot that does nothing as far as I know. So I'm going to try booting it up now. So I'll open up a new terminal. And so the idea is I want to run main.moon with the Twitch environment or configuration. So I can write something like this. Actually, let me switch like this. So yeah, so I can write Lapis environment as environment variable in the operating system, and then run main.moon like this, and it blows up. Okay, so this program crashed immediately. The error is we cannot find lapis.config. Ta-da! Yeah, so I created a brand new account on my computer. There's nothing installed on it, so I don't even have any dependencies. So I'm curious if I have a file that lists dependencies, and I do. It's right here. So I'm gonna, yeah, so there's no yarn for Lua. We have Lua rocks. It looks like I'm gonna check the make file to see if we had any mention of the dependencies or a way to set it up. I don't see any Lua rocks commands in here. So I'm just gonna manually do this. So Lua rocks is the command I'm gonna use. We're gonna do Lua 5.1 because that's what this was built for. And then I'm going to install it locally. I'm going to try build first. So what I have here on the bottom is this rock spec file. It's essentially a package declaration file for Lua rocks. In addition to listing the things it needs to run, it also, in addition to listing out the code that the module would have, it also lists out the dependencies, which are listed here. So it looks like there's a syntax error in this rock spec file, so maybe it's not something I want to use. Yeah, this error is saying syntax error, and there's a missing comma. Okay, well, I ran the build commands, and it appeared to build everything. Actually, I wonder if I think build might just be installed these days. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that took care of all the dependencies. So now I should be able to run it because all my dependencies will be fulfilled. At least the dependencies listed here. Like this could be wrong because this is many years old. Okay, another error. Module pass not found. Okay. And this is also coming from config.moon. All right, here's where the secrets come in. So this is config.moon here. We can see we have this OAuth token parameter, and it's saying require pass. So what I'm guessing is there should be a file that is not checked into the code base that contains my OAuth token. So I need to set that up off screen, essentially, because I don't want to reveal that. I have an alternative Twitch account that I run this bot on. So, I mean, it's not a disaster if someone gets access to it. Actually, it probably is, yeah. So anyway, I'm going to do this off screen for a second. So I'm going to set up this file to contain this special token needed to start the bot. So give me a second here. Hunter 2 is not the pass. It's not even a password I can pick. It's a token generated by Twitch. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions as I poke around on the other screen. I'm curious, can you hear me typing? Is it like obnoxiously loud or just kind of subtle? Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so I made a pass file. I did something slightly different. So when I debug code, I like to just kind of dump out all the data in memory. So for example, if I have an object that's holding onto the config data, and OAuth token was a plain string, I would accidentally show that on stream. So what I did was I made this pass module, which you can see right here now. This returns a function. So the idea is that whenever auth token is used, it should call it like a function, and it'll get the token as a result, it'll use it, and then it'll be gone, essentially. So if I'm ever debugging things and I print things out, this should never reveal the token by accident. So I'm assuming, based on how this was originally written, it just expects a string. So I want to make a modification to the code and make it not do that. I'm also going to add pass.moon to the git ignore, just so I don't check it in by accident. Okay. So in order to make that change with how the password is doing, hello. Someone new in chat. What are we doing? Well, watch a bit, and maybe you'll figure it out. I'll give a brief recap in a bit. Okay, but back to making this change for the auth token. So I want to essentially look through the code and find where it's being used and make that change. So I'm actually, hold on, I'm kind of paranoid right now. I want to run this command outside just to make sure it's not picking up anything weird. Yeah, okay. So I'm using git grep to scan the code base for files that are checked in. Yep, exactly. So Adam just mentioned be careful about using grep. I just tested this grep off screen. I think what I've set up should be secure. So I'm using git grep to scan through the code base. And git grep will only look at things that are checked in or as part of the repository. And I made this pass file, and then I put it in git ignore. So it should never show up in git grep, essentially. I also really recommend using git grep over just some standard grep tool like rip grep or ack or whatever else you may be using. It's very fast because it has an index of all your files in the repository, and it also already knows how to ignore things that you don't want grepped. So we can see inside of our irc.moon file, we look at this auth token thing, and then we pass it in. So I'm going to go to that file. Here's where we use it. And I can see here it's being used as a string. So I'm going to use this syntax to use it like a function. And that should be the change I need. You can see there's some weird stuff in here. Okay, let me try running it. Just because I'm still paranoid, I'm going to run it off stream first just to make sure it's not leaking any stuff. Okay, it actually got an error message, so I need to take a second to rethink about what I just did. So this passed. Well, while I'm poking around, here's what I'm doing. I'm taking some very old code I wrote, and I'm trying to bring it up to speed and make it into my Twitch bot. The first step is trying to actually run what I've already written, and I'm kind of going through it now. I previously kind of looked at some of the code and like kind of figured out what it was doing just like from a brief glance. But now I'm actually trying to run the old code, and part of that is figuring out this auth token thing so it can talk to Twitch's server correctly. So I think I ran it off screen. It crashed in a way that I'm a little confused about, so I'm going to continue debugging it off screen just so I don't accidentally leak this auth token. Once I get this part figured out, though, it should be good, and we can go on to other stuff. So the error I got is saying auth token is actually a table, not a function, which is kind of bizarre to me because I definitely wrote it as a function. So I'm going to dump out the config, which is the thing I kind of mentioned before is potentially risky because you may leak information. Oops, I wrote this wrong. And the idea is I just want to see what's there, check the types of things. So I'm going to run that off stream again, or off screen. Why not just execute it OJ require so it is a string in config? I want to execute it in require. Oh, so if I executed the function in require, then it would defeat the purpose of having it be a function in the first place, because then it would exist in memory, part of the configuration object as a plain string. So if I ever want to print out the config to, say, debug things, then it would still get leaked. The idea that is it lives as a function normally and only returns a string when you need it. So I'm testing inside of a Lua shell to see what's going on. It looks like I did create everything correctly, but there's something bizarre going on with how this config object works. For some reason, it's not just giving me the regular object. So I'm still poking around. The next step is to load this config and see what happens. And actually, I know it's happening. Well, if on a function work in Lua, yes. So I think the question is kind of around this line here is like, what happens if you're doing if this, and the value of OAuth token is a function? Essentially, anything that is not nil or false is truthy. So do I need to add that exclamation point to this? Was a question from chat. I could do it, but it would probably throw an error and kind of defeat the purpose of this check. So this check is to see that this exists. And then once we know it exists, we can use it by calling it. If we tried to call it right here and it didn't exist, it would throw an error instead of just bypassing it. So this if statement essentially is, if you don't have an OAuth token, don't use it. Because IRC, as a regular protocol, does not use OAuth tokens like this. This is like a Twitch extension or something. So we only want to use it if we've provided it in our config. Okay, so I figured out what's going on. And it kind of has to do with this Lapis config syntax, which is unfortunate. So require pass is returning a function correctly. But Lapis's config syntax supports something like this. I could say hello, pass in a function, and then world true, like this. And inside of the config object, it would actually set the property hello.world. To true, right? But this is not what I want to do at all, right? Because I have a function here that's returning a string that should be a value. So I want to force it to just straight up use the value and not do anything fancy with it. And I don't know. So I'm gonna go to the Lapis documentation, actually see if there's anything about this. So Lapis is this web framework I've built, and it comes with this config module that I happen to reuse for the IRC system. And I think this problem I ran into is probably a problem other people will run into. What about not secure? Oh, good point. All right, now we're secure. So scanning over this quick, I don't have to read all this out. You don't have to read all this, but I think there's no description of this problem and probably no good solution that I can remember. So I'm going to essentially implement a little workaround. Hopefully it works. I'm gonna repurpose a table and give it a special call meta method. So it's an object, a regular object, but it works like a function. So let me try making this change off stream because this is where the secret password is. Question was, what do I use to read Twitch chat? I'm using the pop-out chat from their dashboard. So this is a good thing. If any of you have streamed before or know about streaming, like I don't know what I'm doing. So if you have any recommendations for things to use, that would be nice. I probably won't change it this stream, but I can keep it in mind for the future. So if you haven't noticed, I'm building a bot, right, that talks to chat. So maybe in some future I control the tool that I use to read chat. I don't know. We'll see. I have some ideas. I've noticed OBS has essentially a way to, well, you can embed like an app into your stream as like a different layer, and then you can set a chroma key on it so you can get transparency. So like I have some cool ideas. Like I could use a game engine to make cool animations and stuff on the screen. So I definitely want to try stuff like that out in the future. But in the meantime, like the setup is janky. Question: are dev streams going to be a regular thing for you? I don't know. I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna rewatch it and see how painful it is to watch, and think about it. I feel like there's people interacting in chat, which is good. It's not dead. If it was a thing that was dead all the time, then I probably wouldn't continue it. My goal is to make it as interesting as possible right now because I have so little. I'm kind of just messing around, but yeah. I want it to be a regular thing, but I don't know if that will be the case yet. Chat has said it is not painful to watch. Good. Okay. So I kind of want to show you what I did to work around this problem. So I'm going to show a Bizarro version over here. So this idea, still the same idea. I want to make it impossible to accidentally view the OAuth token when printing out the config when debugging things. So the idea here is to not just put in a plain string. In this example here, it's just a plain string hello token, because that would accidentally reveal it when I'm debugging. The idea is to give it a value that can be called to get the result without revealing what it is. And I'm trying to work around this weird restriction of the library I'm using for the config. And here's the approach I came up with. Hello, Mr. Square Peg. What are we doing today? We're working on a resurrecting some old code to restore my Twitch bot. So here's the approach I came up with. Essentially, I'm making an empty table, which hopefully should just be passed through. And I'm using the set meta table function, which is how Lua introduces metaprogramming. And I'm providing a __ call meta method. And that is a function that just returns the token. So what that means is I should be able to call the value of auth token like a function, even though it is actually a table. Once this bot is up, I will be implementing a today command. I'm very excited to do that. We're almost, I feel like we're almost there. I'm not going to try to refactor all the networking code before I just get it running. So this is how I approached it. Let's see if it works. I'm just cleaning up some of this random stuff I left behind. And once again, I'm just going to run it off screen. Okay, this is... I think I need a different approach because that did not work. You're right, I have 2 extensions tables, not anymore. All right, different approach. This is not working. So I'm going to cheat because I don't want to get stuck on this because this is not very interesting. I'm going to cheat by not having it go through the config system. So I'm going to write this. So here's what's going on. I'm skipping config. I'm just calling this thing directly. I'm using pcall, which is a function in Lua that lets things run without error. So if this fails, it just won't do anything, essentially. If this line fails, it'll never send the password to the token. Why am I doing this? Because there's other code involved that I don't want to kind of dig through right now. I think it's kind of irrelevant to what's going on. So not an ideal solution, but it works for now. Well, hopefully. We'll find out in a second. So why didn't it work is the question I got. Lapis is not just taking the value of that table and directly assigning it to the config. I think it's actually making a copy of it because it doesn't want to have the config be messed up in any way if like a mutated data structure is passed to it. So that's why it did not work. Okay. The bot works. So I think if you say something right now, it'll show up on the screen. Yeah, there we go. So the code I wrote a long time ago still works. You're right, it is not a good bot. No tadas work. We need to add a commands. Let's try a today command. I'm going to just leave the bot on. You're right about emoji support. I mean, technically emoji is supported. It's just my terminal does not have a font. Oh, wow, look at that. There's everyone who is in the server, apparently. I have no idea why all those messages came in like that. Server split. Classic IRC. Well, one of the things I eventually want to have is chat on the screen. So I'm going to keep this window open right here, and we got chat on the screen. Okay, so let's make this today command. I have this extension system. It looks like it was designed specifically for stuff like this, so I'm going to make a new extension called today. Based on how I saw those other files, like MIDI, speak, scramble, vim, I just have to create a new class in this directory. If you enable the Twitch TV tags cap, you can get the emote info in the tags. What does that mean? What is the tags cap? I don't know anything about Twitch TV or Twitch or anything, so if you have any advice for like APIs I should be using or things I need to look up, please tell me. But that URL appears to go to someone's channel. Okay, well, I don't know. Oh, thank you for that link. That's useful. Let me bring this on the screen so we can read it together. So these are ways to get additional information from IRC. I was kind of assuming that you'd have to like integrate with their API, their like classic REST API, but it looks like you can have it dump additional information through IRC. It is enabled via capability negotiation. So that is most definitely something that's not supported on my IRC bot. So maybe that might be the thing I should add first. Tags are essentially metadata about the message. All that stuff makes sense. Apparently I am doing capability negotiation. I had 2 lines that did it. Let's take a look. I honestly, I don't remember. Oh, right here, cap, request Twitch TV membership. I wonder if that's why I got that huge dump of like, this person joined, this person joined, this person joined. Yeah, so I'm assuming if I just add the tags cap, I get that other stuff. Looks good. All right. Oh, right. I was in the middle of adding a new extension and I did not finish it. Let's comment that out for now. Let's look at this capability thing. All right, someone say something. Yep. Wow. Okay. So it's kind of hard to see, but these lines used to be very short. They essentially just contain the message, but now we have a ton of data associated with each line. And it looks like there's a syntax with like variable assignments. So display name, emote stuff, flags. Hopefully none of this stuff is secret. And then finally the message is way at the end. Yeah, I think it's just message IDs. So just to like recap, what is IRC? I mentioned earlier, IRC is just like a plain text protocol where you just send text and it does stuff. So like it's very human readable, which is nice. This would be as opposed to like a binary protocol where it's not human readable and you have to pack things very tightly. In any case, this capability I requested by adding this new line here instructed the server to dump additional data with each message sent down. IRC uses this command priv message, private message, to represent a message coming from maybe a channel or a user. So for this particular line here, this priv message Moonscript means we're getting a new message on the Moonscript channel, which represents my Twitch channel. And this capability added all this additional information in front of it. I'm assuming that whatever parser I built, so like identify priv message, no longer works because of all this stuff in front. So that's something I'll need to update. So this is very useful. Thank you. I think this will enable me to do a bunch of things to make the chat bot more interesting. Wow, it looks like I scared some people away. I kind of like how this lets me see people join and leave. I don't know. So I think back when I first wrote this, Twitch didn't have whispers. I don't know if that's a new feature. I have no idea how that works. I don't know if it uses IRC or not. Okay. I want to write the today command first, though. So before I do this tag stuff, let's just comment that out temporarily. Let's make this today commands, because people are going to want to know what I'm up to. So step one, I am enabling this new extension by adding this, adding it to this array here. And then now I need to create a relevant file. So oops, create today.moon. And I'm just going to look at an existing one. Let's try MIDI, because that one is really simple. Also, this shell escape is not good. Don't do this. It's not even used. Okay, so I'm going to just copy it over, and I'm going to call this the today extension. I don't think the name of the class is relevant, but just so it makes sense. The today command needs to respond to IRC messages, so this event handler binding thing here looks good. So next, I need to just dump it out. Like, I don't even know what any of these values are. Like, what is IRC? What is name? What is channel? And what is message? So I can do it this way. If any of these objects are not like plain old strings or something, I won't be able to see what's going on. So I'm going to write this a little bit differently. So I'm going to use the debug printer function in Moonscript, and I'm essentially going to dump it as a big table. So the change I made now is it's using Moonscript's debug printer, and it's making a table with an IRC field and an IRC value. So let's dump it out. So here's something that's kind of annoying. I wrote this new code, and I have to restart the bot to use it. I mean, that might make sense, but I have worked on another project. When I do game development, I wrote this library to hot load classes and things like that. And I think that would probably be really cool to add to something like this. But maybe not a project for today, but definitely something worth working on. In fact, let me write that down. Hold on, is my computer slowing down? Okay. So new subpage, future projects. Add class hot loading to bot. And hold on, I'm gonna work on this wiki for a second if you don't mind. I'm gonna reorganize it a bit. Let me restart the bot. Yeah, let me just, because you want to see. I got distracted. Okay, say something. All right, now we can see a dump of everything. Thank you for saying stuff. I will investigate this stuff shortly, though. Let me clean up this wiki a bit. What I want to do here is I want to add a page for today. Uh-oh, my doorbell just rang. I think I'm getting a package. So instead, I'll be right back. All right. This has now turned into an unboxing video. Here's the box. It has been unboxed. This is a AC adapter for my camera, so I can run it indefinitely without ruining the battery. But I'll use that later. Okay, back to this wiki. Yeah. I ordered an Ethernet cable. It should have arrived yesterday. Never came. I don't know. I seem to be able to stream fine over Wi-Fi, though. This cursor blinking? I think I'm missing something. To Belbino, are you going to take a look at Twitch extensions or just chatbot stuff for now? So for today, it's just the chatbot. Here's actually my grand plan. I want to get a lot more familiar with how Twitch's developer stuff works. I am very interested in making the stream more fun, but also finding out ways to integrate itch into Twitch. So I'm assuming that a Twitch extension could be used there. Okay, what am I doing? I'm trying to relearn this program. Plugins. Journal. Itch that Twitch. Yeah, you know what? That's really unfortunate. Like, whenever I talk to people about itch, there's so many times when people say Twitch by accident and they don't realize it, and I have to wonder, should I correct them or not? They're just going to make things weirder. Is the channel itch taken? I think we do have an official channel. It's not called itch on Twitch. Okay, this journal thing. What the heck am I doing? I enable the plugin so I can have today, and I just want to record what I've already done. So check out the IRC bot. Look over some of the code. Fix the OAuth token passing. Is it called TW? Is what called TW? That's good. Twitch without the itch. Add a today command is what we're working on. Learn about some capabilities. I don't have spell check on, so sorry if I spell stuff wrong. So, just making a note of some of this stuff so I can look back later. Okay. This is what we're working on right now. So, while you were talking... Ooh, I changed the font so I could read this a little better. I don't know if you can read it now, though. Is that readable? Okay, good, good. So there's a lot of junk in here that's getting in the way, so I'm just going to only show what the message and channel is and restart the bot. And I do appreciate when people say things, but I'm going to speed things up by saying things. Okay, message equals this, channel equals that. That looks very easy to parse. I kind of want to check really quick if this capabilities stuff is getting in the way of whatever thing is parsing the messages right now. So I'm going to comment this out uncomment it. A request to also show the name so we can see who's talking. Okay, sure. So I'm bringing back this capabilities for tags. So the message parser seems to still work. So whatever is looking for this priv message thing is ignoring all this crap in front, which is good. So a future enhancement I can see is parsing that out and returning it as an object, as another argument. But in any case, right now we have something that can detect a today command. So if if message equals today, right, then we do something. Now the real question is, how the heck do I actually speak? I kind of want to hide all these. You can notice all these join messages popped up again. Uh-oh. So I'm assuming this IRC object has a method called speak or something. So actually, here's the class open here. Is there something called speak, say? I don't remember the IRC protocol enough to know what it is to actually say a message. Message 2. That looks correct. All right. So if I do something like message 2, and we can see here, we have one where it just keeps track of the channels. Let's just use that. So we just need to say message. I am doing something today. Thanks for asking. And that should be the today commands. It looks like names is being hit. Oh yeah, you're right. Look at that. Name is broken. Thanks for pointing that out. So yeah, the parser is broken, apparently. But we'll fix that later because we don't need the person's name right now. So with this change, you can now use a today command. Someone can use it. Oh! Wow. It only went once. I'm assuming there maybe is like some spam protection where it can't say the same thing twice in a row. Is that true? So if I do something like this, Now give it a shot. Oh. Or I cannot try to work around the system and make it a bot or a mod. Looks like the random number solution is won't work. Okay, it's now a moderator though, so now it should be good. Is there like, does anyone know about formatting stuff? Can you use like bold or colors? No formatting. It would be kind of cool if I made it so this bot is hooked into this wiki thing and I have like a today page. I don't know. But in the meantime, what should I write here? Oh, how do I use emoji? If I just type. But what about like the Twitch emoji? Oh, okay. Well, I guess I guess Bladder X is a Pog champ. What are other commands you want? Help me come up with the commands. Equip. Moon scripts, that's a good one. Language. FAQ. Linux. Beard. Burst to make cool effects. What about Tada? I think I need to bring Tada back. Itch, that's a good one. Discord. Hey, I have a Discord. I should advertise that. It's time for your sponsor. Go to moonscript.org and click on this link. That's like my personal Discord. There's also an Itch Discord if you're curious. Oops, not chart. This link here. In case you use it, I don't care. You don't have to join. The Moonscript Discord is essentially like general purpose stuff about a bunch of my projects and some casual chat as well. Okay. I feel like with all these commands, I need a command to list the commands. Is that a thing people do? Help. That sounds about right. FAQ. Oh, I got that one. Rules. Actually, that's a good point. I got to write some rules. Uptime. How do I even tell what my uptime is? Here's my number one rule, to be honest. Well, my number one rule is be respectful. But like, I am concerned about people coming in here trying to get like support, customer support for their itch accounts. That's no fun. My uptime is 154 right now. Did you look that up with the rest thing, or is it just like on the website? FFZ? What is that? Franker Face Z. What is the absurd name? The Twitch Enhancement Suite. Custom emotes. Oh, God. Wait a sec. This is made by the guy who made Doki Doki Literature Club. What a small world. Okay. Well, I'll check out some weird extensions later. I think, though, I need to add Twitch API support. What am I drinking? I'm drinking iced tea. It's the afternoon. Need a cool, refreshing drink. I think a drink command's a good idea. That is correct. There is no ice in it. It has melted. Okay. Let's write some of these commands. Good thing we have a switch statement, a feature not normally available in Lua. What am I doing today? I am working on my Twitch bot written in MoonScript. So I think these commands are mostly going to be static. So I'm going to do something like this. People really want to know about my microphone. I promise I'll make it sound better, just not today. Okay, here's what I'm doing. I'm making all the commands in this data structure here, table, just so I can have a list command that shows everything. And I'm going to use a list comprehension to group all the keys together. So key for key in pairs of messages. Table.sorts keys. Table.concat keys. And then something like available commands. Oops. Okay. Do you recommend splitting it over multiple messages or just showing the top commands? I agree, but this is a coding stream right now, not a make an external page stream. So I'm going to leave it like this until I hit the limit. The limit is 500 characters, so let's do this. If message and message length equals, or greater than or equal 500, error, well, actually don't error, return, print, commands too long, and that's not command, message. How do I know what the top 5 commands are? Maybe I should keep track of how many each one is commanded. I think I need a database. What does AMT mean? I know that it's a taxing thing. Antimatter tape. Well, you know what? You're going to get a follow from Bladder X. Okay. All right. Deploying new version of bot. Let's watch it crash. It didn't crash. It works. Bummer. I would like to. Do you think it's against Twitch terms of service to record all the chat messages into a local database? I can't do anything about it, right? Just to make like a stats thing? I don't know. Could be fun. You know what else was public? All those records from those AT&T customers. It didn't stop that guy from going to jail. All right, let's get some of these commands out of the way just because this is pretty easy to do. So I'm just making like, actually, this one need API for, oh, not that one. Need API for this. Rules, I need to come up with later. Help, I did that, but I wrote it as list. So let's do something like this. Oops. So quick refactor, the help command can be called many ways, essentially. Okay. How is Arch Linus? Keyboard, that's a good one. Actually, I wish I could show you my keyboard. I think you might like it. Arch Linux, how is it stylized? It's like this. Gotta make sure I spell it right. So I probably need like aliases for these. I don't know, whatever. Improve my services. I think that's what I'm doing when I store everything. I want to make a stats page. If there's any questions anyone has about my setup, now's the time to ask them as I dump them into this file. Spectacles. Specs. Quote of the day. I need to get some quotes first. Alright, I'm just going to do these for now. It's been 2 hours. I was originally planning for going on 2 hours, but I can go on further. I accomplished my main goals, which was get this bot going. I think I broke my... I broke my journal. Hold on. I don't know if there's other stuff someone wants to see me work on. I'm having a hard time over here. Or you're sick of this stream. I don't even know how many people are watching. If there's like one person watching. There's 34 people watching. That actually seems like a lot. Should I keep going? Working on Lapis would be cool. So another thing I wanted to do, hey, that's a good idea. Count the number of people watching, or at least count the number of people that are engaged, like people who chatted in the last unique people who chatted in the last couple of minutes or something like that. I think listening to the audio stream is good too. What I was about to say though is I also wanted to have just like a casual chat thing. If people want to just ask about other random stuff not related to this, I don't know. Question: do you intend to stream more frequently than once in 3 years? I think so. I think there'll be another stream within less than a month. I'm actually going away for a bit, and I won't have access to my desktop, so I probably will not have a stream like very soon after this. But I want to do it more. It seems like there's a decent number of people watching. I also apparently got 20 followers during this stream. Okay. Moonscript is the language. I was originally concerned about getting more than 3 viewers, so I think we passed that. So if I were to continue working on this bot, I think the next thing I would focus on is trying to extract some of this data from the badges and colors and stuff. This camera has great quality too. Camera command. So this is very specific. I use a D5100 Nikon using the PTP mode using software called Entangle. No, not that. Entangle Linux. This thing works pretty good. Maybe I should get some affiliate links in here. As I was saying, the next thing I would probably work on is extracting this data out of these message lines. So I can keep doing that unless there is an interest to talk about or look at anything else. I'm very much happy to just spend time like explaining things or talking about the way things are done. This could be about stuff with like Itch, any of the other projects I have. As I said in the very beginning, I don't expect to really get serious work done during a stream. It's mostly just to talk with the community. Pick and make your emotes. So do I have to be like a special Twitch person to get emotes? Or can anyone just add them? Okay, I have to be an affiliate. I think that means I have to stream a bunch of days. What's the reason behind the ith name? I'm assuming you said Itch. Why Itch name? I'm gonna have so many commands. The reasoning behind the name is very stupid. I bought the domain name randomly, maybe about a year before I made anything. And it was one of the domain names that was sitting around that was short. And I was like, guess I'll use this. That's the whole story. I think a lot of people care a lot about how they name things, which makes sense. I think based on now having just a random name for a while, like I think it's more important to just pick a name and stick with it, as long as it's not like impossible to pronounce or spell. Like you can make mistakes choosing names if like there's ambiguous pronunciations or letters or things like that. That can make it more difficult to communicate your products. But yeah, the name works. So unlikely it'll change. I mentioned kind of earlier, like it's a little unfortunate that Twitch and Itch are so similar. When I talk to people, like with like business calls or stuff like that, like they'll sometimes accidentally say they'll slip out as Twitch instead of Itch, and it's always a little awkward experience. Here's a question: what specifically do you like about MoonScript over Lua? Personally find the coffee/moon syntax to be hard to read. So here's my philosophy about programming languages and syntax. I know if you go to any like programmer communities, people can get very aggressive about saying, oh, this syntax is ugly, this syntax is beautiful, this syntax is blah, 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 blah. It's actually, the concept is very similar to what I just said about naming things. Like, use it for a while, you get over it, like, and then it doesn't matter anymore. I think getting caught up in complaining about it isn't really constructive. You get a feel for a language when you use it. You embed in the name of something in your head when you say it a lot or see it a lot. Like, it's not really that big of a deal, except if there's like something that is problematic. So in the case of the naming thing, like if your name is ambiguous or confusing, problematic. In the case of programming language syntaxes, if the syntax makes you do dumb things by accident, if you accidentally make mistakes all the time, even as an experienced programmer, then I would say there's issues with the syntax. But generally, though, I'm not a hater when it comes to other programming language syntaxes. Like, you get comfortable using it, and that's it. And I don't really get involved with those arguments about which syntax is nicer than other syntax. But I do prioritize being able to write less code. I do write a lot of software, and like seriously, my hands hands are some things that like can be in pain sometimes. So like using like ergonomic stuff and things that just make things very concise and fast. I enjoy that stuff. How do I feel about the productivity this stream? I feel like the amount of work I got done, I probably could have done in like 10 minutes had I not been on stream. But I think it was a good experience because like at the start of the stream, I had to get the technical things figured out with the audio and whatever. I now know how to make that better. I feel like for future streams, things will be more streamlined, so I don't think it'll be as slow. But there's not going to be much stuff that's going to get done during a stream, and that's fine. Like I think we can run the git diff, and I probably made like 10 lines of changes. So yeah, that's how much stuff I got done this stream. Now, how would you feel if someone new to streaming were to make fun of your productivity? I see what's going on here. I wouldn't care. But I know what you're getting at. I think you have to set your expectations in the right place. What are you going to name the Twitch itch integration tools you eventually release? So here's what I'm thinking. Twitch, tw.itch.io. Is where it could go. This looks incredibly sketchy, by the way. I do not know what this is. Hold on. I'm going to look it up in the admin panel and see who created this. Okay. Someone I know created this a long time ago as a joke. But their account has officially been suspended. Whoa. Abuse of power. Can you tell us some recent itch global stats, like total site-wide monthly sales, or how many terabytes of traffic itch.io served last month? Tell us the Botland visit stats. I don't know off the top of my head how many total monthly sales there are. That's probably not a stat we would share normally. In terms of bandwidth, somewhere in the order of magnitude of like 500 to 1,000 terabytes, probably. So that like the post people are mentioning in chat was this very long post I wrote about like the growth of the company and all these metrics and things like that. That took a very long time to make. I think I did it for 2 years, and then I kind of gave up because it's just exhausting. Uh-oh. My camera just died. Hold on. Let me try this new plug I just bought. I'm still here, but my camera is not. Well, now I know how long the battery lasts. Regarding those posts, so like they take a lot of time to make, and I feel like when I do them, I always want to make them very positive and stuff. Or if there is something like more negative to focus, I'll frame it in a good way. So it's also hard to just find the right metrics I want to show. So it's not like we get like super growth in all areas of the product. It really is kind of like a glorified marketing post, which is fine, but that's what it is. So will I ever make one again? I think it would be fun to make. I've actually not been doing a good job of updating the itch blog with features and things I've been coding recently. So I think before I make one of those posts, I probably need to start getting back into writing those regular, smaller update posts. One sec, I'm going to try to plug in this camera and go quiet for a bit. Okay, the camera is powered. And we're back. Glad that arrived. Yeah, so I guess we're doing some itch chat. Last question is, could the stats be automated? Yeah, they definitely could, but I feel like still, like, I don't want to just dump everything. I want to pick things that make us look like we're doing well and like get people excited about the platform. So that's, I guess, my current sense on that is like I don't want to just reveal all our stats and then let people like pick over and try to make assumptions about how things are going or what's happening or stuff like that. I think as someone who has to run a company, I think it's good to prioritize the positive things because that's just how you grow and you spread a positive message. Bandwidth, requests per hour, average price of games that sell. Let me show one of these original blog posts actually. Control F, more analytics. So I think generating stats that like help people understand how to sell what they're creating is very good. I want to figure out how to do stuff like that. There's kind of a problem though. Here's the post called More Analytics. Here's the problem with creating like stats instructing people how to sell their game. Viral things or like things that are much more popular essentially can dominate those stats, and then the stats do not actually represent what you should be doing. So most of the successes we see on the platform, the people who like push the most money are like they just have success because of something happening outside in the world or something. They went viral, they get a ton of traffic, and I don't think that type of stuff is representative of the average seller. So essentially, well, even if you isolate outliers, then you're left with noise. Because then if you go to the average seller, like, so think about the average seller. We're an open marketplace where anyone can publish and start selling immediately. Your average seller is not going to be selling many units, so you can't really extrapolate and make a lot of conclusions from what they're doing. So I think it's hard to massage the data in a way that would like actually tell you how you should be selling your game. So that's why I haven't tried to like make any conclusions like that and tell people this is how you should do things. I think the position we're in right now is letting people do what they think like they should do, and we should be paying attention, like Itch as a platform, and seeing what succeeds and trying to identify that. Honestly, too, I think it's less about like the tags you choose and like what day you launch or things like that. Like like just making your page look professional, things like that. Like that actually makes a difference. Like so, the real advice we should be giving people first is like make your thing look professional, make it look good, right? Don't use the default theme, things like that. So I think if we were to start pushing people towards like optimizing their selling, that's probably where we would push people first. And that is definitely something we want to do. We want to give people a series of steps they need to follow to make sure they make a good page. Make a good game. Maybe not. I don't know. There's plenty of people who make very simple things who you might not consider it a good game, but have a gimmick in it, and it gets a lot of people excited. Like, hold on. I got distracted. I want to find this blog post so I can link it in chat first. It was called Running an Indie Game Store. It looks like I did it twice. Here's the 2015 one. So very old, but you can kind of poke through it if you want, see the graphs. Okay, back to the thing about making a good game. Back to the thing about making a good game. So here is our games page, which shows the most popular stuff. And this is a pattern I see is a lot of these games that like get this like spike of popularity, they're designed for YouTubers to play. So I'm not saying like these are good or bad games. I'm just saying like they're taking advantage of like the current ecosystem of streamers, YouTubers creating these videos that get very viral. They're very short experiences. They're typically horror games with like jump scares and things like that. Um, and so this stuff uh, is popular. I don't know. So it's like sometimes making something that's popular doesn't like line up with what an individual thinks is a good game or has good gameplay or something like that. It's more about just doing what you know can get attention from people. There is a question in the chat or remark about trying to figure out what kinds of prices people pay for certain genres. I tried to like look at stuff like that. So the last time I did this like analysis was around when I was writing these blog posts, and I still felt like um, there's too much noise to make any general conclusions about what people want to pay for certain things. For example, there's like a lot of visual novels where they have a very dedicated fan base that will just they'll buy it. Essentially, they'll pay $15 for it, even if an average person might think it's a $5 game worth like $5 worth of content or something like that. So it varies a lot. It's hard to make conclusions. I could make like some confusing graphs showing like the distribution of prices and let people try to figure out for themselves, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. What's this thing about honey sticks? So, there's a question from chat again about the pricing stuff. Like, if you make a good quality visual novel, a dedicated fan base may pay X for it. I think that's maybe the wrong approach. If you should focus on building your audience and then kind of figure out what your audience will pay for it. I don't think us saying what people are paying for other games will really help you make that decision. It might like give you a range, but I think talking to the audience is more important. I like honey sticks. I haven't had any in a while. I realize I never mentioned on Twitter I started my stream. It seems like all of my viewers are Adam's viewers and maybe a few Lua people. I'm going to mention on my Twitter that I'm having a casual chat. It's less about where the viewers come from and more about if you can keep those viewers. That's very true. Will Adam's viewers return to me? Who knows? Maybe if he hosts me again. Is that how it goes? If Adam hosts someone, you just don't even change the page, you just leave it up? The mic is really that bad? I mean, I can try to mess around with the mic right now if no one has any questions. Would you like to learn about the mic setup? And then maybe if anyone knows about this stuff, you can tell me what dials to tweak. Okay, yeah. I need to, yeah. Me not speaking into it correctly is, yes, a big problem. My microphone is muted the entire stream. Oh, crap. You can't even see my lips, though. They're behind the microphone. Oh, well, maybe you can see them. How's my my stream latency? Can anyone see that? Is it 15 seconds? Two seconds, not bad. Maybe I can bring some real-time stuff back. All right, here's my audio setup. So I'm on Linux. Linux has a bunch of different ways to do audio. One of them is this thing called Jack. It's a service that you have to start up, and then it manages all your audio interfaces, and it gives you this very manual way of connecting things. So this interface here essentially allows me to connect all my different sources and outputs. I know you don't know Jack. That's why I'm talking about it. So what I have connected to my computer is a USB audio interface, and then this crappy microphone runs into the audio interface, and then that is showing up over here. And so it just so happens that my audio interface has 6 inputs, and the microphone is coming through Capture One. Trying to zoom in a bit. Capture One right here. And then I want to do some processing on the audio so it sounds not as bad. Those crossed wires are upsetting me. Yeah, this is not a good setup. I frantically assembled this. Why do people's chats have colored names now? What does this mean? In chat, colored messages. Oh. I gotta add that to my bot. I think my bot needs to be aware of it. Actually, does it... Someone do a /me. I want to see what it looks like in here. Okay, it's an action commands. Oh, whoops. So it does priv message, moonscript action. Wow. I don't know if I can use that in any way. Does anyone use the /me for anything, or is it just annoying? Does anyone have the thing from Merc where you slap someone with a fish? Trout slap. Okay. What was I talking about? The action message is enclosed in some characters I cannot see. Well, that's nice. Actually, why is that flashing? Oh, that's just my terminal. All right, here's my audio setup. So Capture is my microphone. And then it goes into this stack of plugins, which I've created over here. I'm using something called calf, like a cow. And the first thing I put into is a gate. What a gate does is essentially, if the volume is below a threshold, it cuts it out entirely. So the idea is if there's noise, background noise, that would be below the threshold. So when I'm not talking, it's below the threshold. It just silences the audio. It looks like it's not silencing it all the way, though, based on what I see right here, this graph. So I can actually take threshold. Wait, what can I do? Ratio, and I can squash it to 0. What can I do? Oh, there we go. So this should not be a harsh noise gate. You can see there's a kind of a bend in the curve. I don't know how clear that shows up on the stream. And all these parameters, essentially attack is how fast the gate activates, release how slow it deactivates. Knee is what the shape of the bend. So I can make it softer. Did that make the microphone any better? What I did was I essentially made all the white noise go to 0. I don't know. Anyway, that's probably something I'll have to do. Yeah, that you could probably only tell a difference if you heard humming while I wasn't talking. I know a couple people said they could. Okay. And then the gate is now outputting over here. My threshold is too high. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, you might be right. Let's take a look at that again. This kind of has the same, like, it related to me not putting my mouth next to the microphone good enough, but I think I can fix that by tweaking some of these settings. Test, test, test. So the idea is there's me talking and then there's me not talking. Me not talking should be down here or down here. Me talking should be up here. You hear humming now. Yeah, I think the threshold, I just reduced the threshold. I think it needs to be a little higher. While I'm doing this, I'm going to turn on the monitor so I can hear myself talking. Still a little humming. I made it worse. Okay, let me plug something in. So essentially this box that I'm shaking around is the output that goes to OBS. So if I want to monitor what you people can hear, I just need to drag this into system and I can hear the humming. Okay. Okay, now there's no humming, but I'm worried about it, like, cropping my voice off. The real issue is probably this microphone. I think that humming might be like electrical interference. Test. I don't know. The microphone is fine, assuming it's not like broken in a way where it's introducing this humming because of interference or something like that. What app is this? So I'm using. Oh, hold on, I need to turn off monitor because it's driving me nuts. So I'm using this thing called CAF Audio Tools. It's a suite of things for Linux that lets you do like audio production things. CAF Studio Gear, I guess is what it's called. It just comes with a bunch of plugins, and you can combine them how you see fit. And the particular one I was just looking at was a gate. So I think that the room, this humming we hear is either some sort of interference or it's coming from my computer's fan. I don't think this microphone would pick up the fan noise, so I need to do some testing. It could be my room. Yeah, Veld Dev. I highly recommend this if you ever have to like do any sort of audio stuff on Linux. You can use it to make your audio sound good, but it takes a lot of tweaking essentially. But let's keep going through the effects chain, see if I can find any issues. So after the gates, which is the thing that tries to cut out the humming, we pass into the equalizer. You can check out my SoundCloud if you want. There might be some EDM there. The equalizer is just to make my voice less annoying, I guess. Apparently it was way too bassy from the beginning. I may be able to like identify the humming's frequency and cut it out. That's like another way of trying to get rid of that background noise. Let's see. So it's probably really hard to see. But I turn on an analyzer on this graph here. You can see that the humming is kind of right here. So just trying to tweak it. I don't want to take out too much of the low end. I don't know. It's probably not any better. While I'm messing around with these dumb plugin things, anyone have any questions about anything? Just trying to pass some time. Is my real name Leaf? Yes, it is. Do I kiss my mom with that mouth? Wow. Wow. Itch.io line of plushies. I would like to have those. I don't know anything about producing physical goods, things like that. But yeah, if you know a place to get plushies made, maybe I can figure something out. How do I get my beard to do that thing? I don't know what thing it's doing, but I did comb it before the stream. So maybe that. You need an itch mascot animal. Yeah, I think we kind of have a frog thing going on. I think we can do more with the frog. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you, Kit Sovereign. I'm also glad it exists. I have a lot of fun working on it. What is the preferred pronunciation? So technically, itch all by itself, just itch, is the name of the app. But itch.io is kind of a mouthful, so I will often just say itch to represent the whole thing. Also, the company is called Itch Corp, so I don't know, itch is valid there too. For written communication, though, we tend to just use itch.io. So if you want to talk about it when written down, just type out the whole name. Some people say Itch.io. That's fine. I don't say it, but you can say it. I like to say there's no right or wrong. I have a video game recommendation. But before I can play it, I don't have the Itch app installed on this this user account. So let's take care of that. All right, quick vote. Do you want me to go back to coding this bot thing, or do you want me to mess around with some Itch game, or just scroll through stuff? I create I don't know. I created a new account on my computer today just for streaming, so no sensitive information can be leaked, and it does not have the app on it. So that's why I just installed it. But I am a big user of the app generally when I play games, when I have time to play games. So my game recommendation, it's a game called Mindustry. Wait, no, this isn't it. What the heck? That search needs to be fixed. Mindustry is good. People have said it's like Factorio. I've never played Factorio, but this game I played a lot. No one told me whether they wanted to see game or working on bot coding stuff. Buying honey sticks. Where's the best place to buy honey sticks? I'm not going to play this game now. I think I might actually go back to coding, actually. But this game, play it. You will enjoy it. Well, what about this? Does anyone have any recommendations? Nothing. Meat Punks. I haven't played Meat Punks. This just came out, actually. Visigun Reloaded. I played the original Visigun a while ago. I really enjoyed it. It's a good local multiplayer game. I think we had it during like a GDC or something. We had a station set up at a GitHub event. I hear Botland's pretty good too. Wow, I need an account? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I need to convince Adam to add a OAuth login for a Itch to Botland integration. I know about guest account. I know. I have played Botland many a time. Hey, Zoop or Pancake. I think I'm pretty much done with the stream for the day. I don't want to dive into any other coding projects right now. Um, just hanging out. This game looks cool. I haven't had a chance to check it out. Cool art style. All right. So what did I do today? I resurrected my IRC bot. I looked through the code, explained some stuff to whoever was around then. I changed how the configuration was being done to essentially prevent myself from accidentally leaking secret codes. I learned about some cool new features with the like IRC extension stuff, and then I added a today command and a bunch of other commands. Apparently not list. What? Well, that's a bug. Oh, maybe. No, what's going on? In any case, there was a question. Are the featured games manually curated? So there's a bunch of sections on the homepage. This section here, latest featured games, yes, this is manually chosen. My bot is apparently broken. I'll check it out in a second. Then there are other sections. So like recommended for you, this is programmatically generated. Fresh games, this is, it pulls from like a bunch of different sources. We kind of went around and identified like cool collections from various creators on this, or just people on the site. Yeah, I think the bot must have got disconnected because it wasn't, it did something wrong. In any case, fresh games, this is not manually done, it's more automatically done. Just if there's some sort of like activity from collections. So you can see Botland is here for some reason. So it's kind of hard to tell why a specific thing is currently here, but it gives you like a rotation of stuff. TMI.js. I don't know what TMI.js is. So an easy way to get on the homepage is this section if you're not like, I don't know. If you don't like, we didn't see it and we're able to feature it or something like that. Featured jams, this section is manually curated. So this is actually done by me. I kind of go check the new jams every day and I look for things that look like good jams. And then this more featured stuff is also curated stuff. So that's pretty much how everything on the homepage gets put here. This big video thing is also manually curated. And this is something I've started recently. These videos I've been like cropping and editing myself. And I'm kind of running a test to see how well these video modules perform. I think they're doing pretty well. So the chat's talking about this TMI.js, Twitch chat client, JavaScript. I will probably never use that. My bot is written in MoonScript, runs on Lua, so there will be no JavaScript libraries involved. Sorry. TMI.moon. Actually, yeah, so part of this process is I'll probably have to write a client for the Twitch API, and it will be open source. The bot seems to still be alive, like it's still getting messages. I'm assuming if I restart it, it'll start working again. No, it's just straight up broken. I think oh, I see what I did. I was in the middle of writing code and I got distracted and started doing something else, and the code I wrote makes no sense. Okay, bot is back. should it work with doing me list? Is that a feature request? I don't think so either. I was going through my to-do list, so I had a bunch of commands. I need to write rules at some point. I think I also need to update. Well, hold on. I'm going to change how I do this. So this is what we did today. I'm going to make a new folder called to-do or new file. So I need to write rules for the room at some point. I need to add like the sections on the bottom of the stream with probably the rules and some of the common commands. I guess some of these other commands I'll figure out in the future, essentially. So like something like uptime, I need to start writing an API client for. I think I'm going to stop in like 2 minutes, but before I do that, so at the very beginning of the stream, I talked about the event loop of this bot, how it's structured, how it's using Lua Socket. And I wanted to upgrade it to something else. And the thing I want to upgrade it to is a library called CQs. And this is essentially it's an event loop with a lot more features, and it's a lot more flexible, and it's designed specifically with it works well with Lua's coroutine system. It gives you systems for like scheduling things, stuff like that. This library is very good. So I want to replace my like manually written like my while true loop with this event loop. And then what I will do from there is, so this also gives me like a socket interface, if I remember correctly. So this, I'll use this, instead of using Lua Socket, I'll use whatever socket interface is here. Yeah, so you can see they have their own socket class. It's very similar. I'm hoping the conversion will be pretty easy. Part of the reason why I want to do this is this bot will probably be making HTTP requests. And the way it currently works is kind of like hacked together. I'm going to try to find something in here. So yeah, I wrote my own HTTP request thing. It's very hacky. So I technically could have used Lua Socket to implement making HTTP requests, but I wrote something manually so I could like fit it in with my own like custom event loop. So that means I'm like using my own reader around the socket. I'm implementing like the bare minimum of HTTP just to make requests. And that's cool. HTTP is a very simple plain text API. Exactly. I'm about to address the comment you just highlighted, or this error here. HTTP is simple. It's cool. If you're looking for a fun side project, like try making a very simple HTTP request thing that just uses raw sockets. The problem is there's a big spec, and I'm not going to implement it all. I want to use something else that just works, so I don't have to deal with this stuff. So on top of CQs, there's another library called Lua HTTP. And it's good. It's a good library that handles a wide range of web-related things. So it lets me make HTTP requests. It'll fit in with that event loop, so I can just start using them. It lets me create HTTP servers. So I'm assuming that at some point this bot will want to have some sort of user interface, and I can do it through the browser by just running a HTTP server right inside the bot. The HTTP support includes HTTPS. So this error here is because I didn't want to implement any of the HTTPS stuff. That's a complicated layer on top of regular HTTP. So this will take care of all that. Additionally, this supports WebSockets. Yeah. So I know there's newer Twitch APIs that use WebSockets, and maybe I want to use them for something, for telling when people do something. I don't actually know yet, but I do know I can just use this and it'll work. So I don't have to deal with writing some that's like plumbing code as I tried to do in the past. So this code I'm looking at here now is written like 3 to 5 years ago. So the idea is to just rip this all out, use more modern libraries that I know work well because I've used them for other stuff at this point. And that way the bot can do more things. So whenever my next stream is, I think what I'm going to prioritize working on is replacing Lua Socket with CQs and Lua HTTP. This time around, I think I only wrote like a couple lines of code. So next time, this is definitely going to take more than a couple lines of code. So I don't know what the vibe will be like, but hopefully it'll be interesting. But yeah, that's what the plan is. I do not know when I'll have another stream next, just because I'm kind of busy next week or for the next 2 weeks. So it's likely there will not be one too soon from now. But I do think this one was pretty successful. We got a decent number of people checking it out. Got to answer some questions. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any last questions, I can answer. Otherwise, the stream is over. Thanks for stopping by. I had fun. It is the weekend, so have a good weekend. Join my Discords. Oh, crap, I didn't write the Discord command. Whatever. Thanks. Goodbye. I don't know how to host anyone, and I don't know anyone to host, so you're getting nothing.